passionate, driven, enthusiastic, euphoric. This is who we are as entrepreneurs. But how we leverage these incredible attributes to dream and build businesses that scale and grow is what this podcast is all about. Hello, I'm attorneypreneur Josh Brown, and welcome to Franchise Euphoria. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Franchise Euphoria. Thrilled to have Eric Sue on the show today. Eric is the CEO of digital marketing agency called Single Grain. Single Grain has worked with Fortune 500 companies such as Salesforce, Yahoo, and Intuit to help scale their revenues using a combination of SEO and advertising strategies. Eric also owns Growth Everywhere, a marketing podcast where he dissects growth levers that help businesses scale and grow. Hello, Eric, and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Josh.
Yeah, thrilled to have you. You know, I've had of late a series of social media folks and marketing folks, because really in the franchise space, I think it's really in need of good people who can help franchise systems that are just getting going, or businesses that are right in that space where they're thinking about franchising, give some good ideas on how once they become a franchise, they can scale and grow the right way. Because we all know the way in which people scale and grow and they end up bankrupting their business. We obviously want to help people the right way. So thrilled to have you on today.
Yeah, thrilled to be as well. Ready to dive into things.
So tell me a little bit about Single Grain.
Yeah, so Single Grain, we're a digital marketing agency. We primarily work with technology startups or Fortune 500 companies, really helping them grow their revenues online. So that could mean helping with online advertising. So that could be Facebook advertising, Google advertising, or search engine optimization. We really try to focus on the areas that we're good at, and help look for the low hanging fruit for each of these companies. And really, you talked about growth levers, really touching on those growth levers and pulling it and making sure that the numbers go up and to the right.
So what are some of these growth levers that you guys focus on?
Yeah. So, when people think about search engine optimization nowadays, you could talk about, acquiring links for a website. So the more links you have coming to your website, it's almost as, votes of confidence. And then Google search engines can see that. And then you're going to start to rank for, higher keywords. So money keywords, which, for example, let's say you're a shoe store, and then you're trying to sell your red shoes. Well, if you're ranking number one for the keyword red shoes, you're going to get the majority of the clicks, which means you're going to get more revenues overall. So our job is to really kind of figure out, the science behind, what keyword opportunities are we ranking, from number 5 to number 30. These are the low hanging fruit. How do we get them higher? And how do we try to build up a larger search presence for each of these businesses?
How do you do that with the changing nature of the algorithms and so forth that occurs with Google, and make sure that the things that you're putting in place don't become obsolete, 2 months later?
Yeah, great question. So the old way of doing SEO was pretty simple. All you had to do was buy a few links, and then you could go to like a forum, buy some links, and then what you're talking about 2-3 weeks later, you're ranking for your money keyword. Now the algorithms have gotten much smarter, which means people have to play a more long game, which is great. I think people talk about content marketing nowadays. I think that's one of the keys to success, because you're building a brand. You're creating content out there to provide utility to people, and that's Google's, I looked last week, the top 2 factors are content and links, right? You can't just have a random site without content to it. You kind of have to have both at the same time. So, a lot more people are jumping into the content marketing game now, which means they can be creating blog posts, they can be creating videos, podcasts like what you're doing right now. And ultimately doing this, even if the search engines decide to ban you, and you lose all your traffic, well, you're still going to have that brand for a long time to come. And I think, the old ways of people writing, using robots to write, to kind of, make duplicate content and, just drive a bunch of links to a page, those days are over now. Now it's all about building, long-term brand and kind of standing out from the crowd.
Now the links, are you talking about backlinks or a different kind of links?
Yes, that's correct. Backlinks.
Okay, so explain a little bit what those are. I know what those are, but I mean, I think to the people out there, they might not know what that means.
Yeah, super simple. So, when you're reading an article on a website and you see these little blue links with a little underline under them, it's a link and you click it. And, those backlinks actually provide, it's a signal to search engines saying that, hey, this thing that they're linking to right now, this actually might be relevant / important. Obviously, the more, if you have a fashion blog and you have more fashion blogs linking to you, that's great because you're getting quote unquote relevant backlinks from similar blogs. Versus if you're a fashion blog and you're getting a bunch of Viagra or gambling links, that's not going to hold as much weight because Google likes to see links that are relevant coming to your website. Now, that being said, sites like Amazon, which are massive, they're getting links all over the place. They're getting 30 links. They're getting links from all these different types of websites. And it's my response to that would typically be, larger websites, they have a higher threshold for having a more dirty profile because the larger the website, the more leeway search engine's going to give you, if that makes sense.
No, that does. And you also mentioned content, which I'm always big on. I know with myself, as an example. When I started focusing on franchise work 5-6 years ago, it started with me, creating the indiefranchiselaw.com blog. And then shortly thereafter, not shortly, but some few years later, I launched a podcast. But everything I've done has been really from an organic perspective. And that is, I've just written a lot of blog articles. I've taken the time to really hone in on that space, and frankly haven't paid all that much attention. I've paid some attention to keywords and I've tried different things, but just consistently over time been putting out good relevant content in the franchise space, and I've been rewarded by that from Google. Now, a lot of people don't want to take that time, don't want to put in that effort. Is there a way around that with content marketing? I mean, I know for myself, when I talk to people and they ask, that's what I did, so that's what I know. And I know that works, but it also takes time to organically put out there all those, all that material, all that information. How do you work around that, or is it even possible to do that?
I don't think there is, because when you're doing content marketing, you're building a brand in essence, and you can't build a brand overnight. It's not going to happen quickly in a year or so in most cases. And, Content Marketing Institute reported that, it takes anywhere from 12 to 18 months to start to reap the benefits. And then you think of it as compounding interest over time, because it's just going to continue to stack on top of each other in terms of your traffic numbers, your email numbers, and things like that. So it does take time, and you have to be patient. A lot of people, they're playing the short game, but the people that do play the long game, they stay consistent, they keep iterating over time. Those are the ones that are going to be successful. So
do you try to, with your clients, engage in sort of annual type contracts? Because it's got to be difficult somewhat to show an ROI immediately, as we just spoke about, for various reasons. So is that sort of what you look for with your clients?
Yeah, I mean, 6+ months. Sometimes, we do aim for the annual, obviously better for us. But sometimes, we start at 6 months and go up.
And I know you worked with some big businesses. Now, tell me about some of the entrepreneurs that you work with that maybe aren't Fortune 500 companies, but are growing businesses. They're folks who have been around a little bit, maybe have a location or two, and maybe they're looking to expand and grow either through franchising or in just a corporate structure. What are some of the ways in which you work or determine if it's a good fit for your company?
Yeah. So the big thing for us, we have a few questions, right? So we'll take a look at their website. If their website looks like it's from 1995, well, it's probably not a good fit for us because they don't really believe in digital, and there's a lot more work involved there. They have to have the right foundation set up. And then the other thing is they need to have very specific goals. What are they trying to accomplish in the next 90 days or so? Because if they don't even have an idea of where they want to go, well, we're going to be in for a long ride. So those are just two things we look at. But we do ask a ton of different qualifying questions like anybody would in this scenario. And then I think one big question we ask that adds a lot of insight is what if you could one marketing they'll kind of tell us what they're looking for exactly from there.
So what would you say differentiates Single Grain from the other SEO marketing type services out there?
Yeah, so the thing for us, I mean, is we're very numbers focused. We have people that have worked not only in the tech startup world, but have worked on the agency side too. So a lot of agencies, it's just agency people. They're hiring junior people all the time. We have a healthy balance of people, and that's the insight that we have from the technology world kind of helps us. We're able to move quickly. We know how people, we know the language there, we know the key metrics and things like that. The results kind of speak for themselves. And then, we get a lot of referral clients. And I think, if you search for a keyword like digital marketing agency, give or take, we're either number 1 through number 3 on any given day. So we know what we're doing.
No, that's awesome. And I mean, I think for a lot of folks out there who don't speak the tech language, a lot of people, it can be frustrating nowadays because we're just looking for, as an entrepreneur, you're looking for a solution, right? You're looking for somebody who can come in and, not in addition to handling the SEO, can handle other aspects of the digital marketing space. Do you guys handle all aspects of that?
No, absolutely not. The people that say they do, full service digital marketing agencies, those, more often than not, they're probably really lacking in some areas, and they're probably never really equipped to service a client in, the areas that are not part of their core competency. So we just focus on SEO, content marketing, and paid advertising.
So that's awesome. Hey, I'm really glad you said that. I'm really glad you said that. I can tell you on a personal level, I've worked with some different businesses that have tried to come in and say that they can do everything. And you're right. It's been disappointing each and every time.
Yeah, it hurts the client.
Yeah, it hurts the client, and these are good companies that I think can do well with some folks, but they try to just kind of be all things to all people, and of course that's what we all know that doesn't work so well. But yet the digital game is so broad, and there's so many different things that are involved with it that I think it's an attractive selling point to tell somebody, yeah, just hire my company and we can take care of it for it. So they get a lot of people to sign on. But God, is it hard to prove out that concept?
Right.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit in terms of, I know we spoke about SEO as a growth lever. What other levers do you guys work with to help businesses grow?
Yeah, Facebook ads has been working really well. Google AdWords has been around for a while, but they're constantly trying to innovate there. But a big thing is now a lot more people are doing content marketing now, and one big part of content marketing is content promotion. And a great way to go about that is using like the tool like Facebook advertising or Google AdWords to drive traffic to your content, and then try to get people on your email list, or at the very least you're getting people to kind of engage with your content, and you can kind of retarget them. You can retarget them later. So people that are starting from scratch, if they have a little bit of a budget, you can actually go out there and start to build that brand. Versus the old days, there wasn't really a good medium for promoting content at scale, but now you can.
So do you require with your customers that they do sort of paid advertising, paid Facebook, Google advertising, or is that sort of an elective?
Yeah, that's more of an elective thing. So, they're not, in some cases they're already doing Facebook ads and Google, so we don't really need to step in. We can just give them some input. But yeah, it's really elective, and then we'll just make strong recommendations in the beginning.
So I should have asked this at the outset. How'd you come up with the name Single Grain?
Good question. I'm not the original founder of the company. I took the company over, but I do know the story. He was
That's good.
He was eating a bowl of cereal, and that day, we needed to come up with a name for the company. And he just saw like this, I think it was a bag of rice or something, and it's a single grain on it. So that's our name.
So it literally has nothing to do with nothing.
Yep.
Well, it's interesting because when you say single grain, it does kind of have a connotation of like you focus on one thing, which you actually do. You focus on one thing, the SEO component of it. So I guess it makes sense.
There you go.
So what led you to buying the company or coming in and taking over the company?
Yeah, so I came into the company as a number 2, as a chief operating officer a couple of years in, and then a lot of things to overhaul, a lot of things to fix, and then about a year into it, the original founder decided that he didn't want to be a part of it anymore. He kind of wanted to go do other things, and came to an agreement there. And ended up taking over the company. So, we still all talk, and, all the original partners, we all talk. And, thankfully, not thankfully, I'm actually lucky, I should say. Luckily, I own 100% of the company today.
Well, that's fantastic. So you are the go-to guy if a company is looking for SEO domination in their space.
SEO and paid advertising.
And paid advertising. That's awesome. The before we hang up, tell me about your podcast, Growth Everywhere. I've listened to it. I've enjoyed it. But tell the folks out there about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Growth Everywhere, it's a marketing podcast, mainly focused with tech entrepreneurs. So we talk about marketing and we talk about business and personal growth. Have a lot of interesting people that have been on the show. You know, the one of the co-founders from Marketo, big company, and even the guy that invented the magnetic credit card stripe. So a lot of different innovators
Really?
on the show. Yeah, he's like a 70-year-old guy named Ron Klein. But that for me was originally intended to just pay it forward because I thought, a couple of years back, there's really not a lot of good information around marketing, especially in the tech space. And I just, what if I could, go toe to toe with these executives or founders and then just get the numbers from them, get the tactics and strategies so people can kind of start implementing and, growing their revenues.
So what's that done for your business? Because, I always tell folks about how great the podcast has been for my law practice, my franchise law practice. And I know obviously others have benefited tremendously as well. What kind of impact have you seen from your Growth Everywhere podcast?
Yeah, it's stuff that you would never really expect. I mean, stuff like you getting invited to speak at events, getting press opportunities, also getting client. I never really, there was never intention to get clients or anything from it, but it just starts to happen. These are, the clients that we do get from it. They're people that have stayed with us, as long as the podcast has been around. So, it's really high caliber people because I think anybody that listens to podcasts right now, they're inherently, they're voracious learners. They want to get better. So I think it's a different type of person. I think it's to me, for my business, it's a must have.
Oh, no, it's fantastic. No, I agree. I tell people all the time that it's been the single biggest push for my business in unexpected ways, as you indicated. Mm-hmm. I mean,
right.
You and I both, we have separate businesses that exist without our podcast, or our podcast is not our business, but it's been a great enhancer.
Right. Totally agree.
So, all right. Well, where can folks get a hold of you and learn more about Single Grain?
Yeah. So I think the easiest way, if you use Snapchat, I'm always, doing like weekly, business and marketing kind of lessons in little snaps. It's Eric O. So it's Eric O as an orange, SIU growth. Or you can follow me at EricoSue on Twitter.
Well, fantastic. Well, thanks for taking time. Sorry about the audio issues. It looks like there was I think there's some construction going on outside my office, which may have had an impact on that. But thanks for being patient. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. This has been fantastic.
All right. We look forward to staying in touch and learning about all the continued successes with Single Grain. So thanks again.
Thanks, Josh.
Hopefully this was helpful for you today. If you are in the market for a franchise, I would highly encourage you to check out my free ebook, which is What to Know Before You Buy a Franchise. You can head over to my website at that's INDY franchiselaw.com and download it there for free. And let me know what you think. If you're enjoying this podcast, if you're enjoying the value that you're getting from this podcast, I'd also invite you to go to iTunes and provide me with a rating and review. It always helps for visibility on the podcast. So thank you so much for your support, and hope this episode was helpful to you.
Thanks for being with us today on the Franchise Euphoria podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to go to iTunes and provide a review. Also, please remember that although Josh Brown is a licensed and practicing attorney, nothing contained in this podcast should be construed as legal advice, because it is not. The information contained in this podcast is general and educational in nature, and none of it should be relied upon as legal advice. That being said, if you have questions for Josh and would like to contact him, please email him at josh@franchiseeuphoria.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you tune in to our next weekly episode.